Huwaida Araf is a Palestinian-American human rights attorney and one of the organizers of the Freedom Flotilla. Tiago Avila is a Brazilian environmental and pro-Palestine activist, coordinator of Freedom Flotilla Brazil, and member of the steering committee of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition.
And just a few days ago, one of their ships was attacked by drones off the coast of Malta as it prepared to leave for Gaza, carrying humanitarian aid. This is far from the first time when a Gaza Freedom Flotilla has been attacked. In 2010, Israel infamously killed participants in the Freedom Flotilla aboard a ship called the Mavi Marmara. So there's a long history of this. And one of the international activists who was there to take part in this new flotilla attempt at sailing to Gaza was the very famous environmental activist Greta Thunberg.
I was part of a group who was supposed to board that boat today to continue the voyage towards Gaza, which is one of many attempts to open up a humanitarian corridor and to do our part to keep trying to break Israel's illegal siege on Gaza.
We actually have some footage of the attack, so let's take a look at this footage.
Drones have shot at the Freedom Flotilla Coalition while in international waters. We have been organizing an action under a media blackout to limit Israeli sabotage. The front of the ship was targeted twice and a fire began immediately after. We have sent an SOS distress signal out, but no one has responded. Water is coming into the ship. 30 humanitarians are on board. Put pressure on officials and the Maltese government immediately to save the humanitarians on board. This is an urgent situation.
That was pretty terrifying. We also have images of the damage. We have some photos of the damage so people can get a sense of the damage. So here's some of the damage. We have more. And then finally, we actually have a video of someone asking for help. Can you tell us who this person is? Then we'll play the video. But before that, set up who this person is, who we're about to hear from.
This person on this video is Beheshti Ismail. He is the son of a person who was assassinated 15 years ago at the Mavi Marmara boat. And he's one of our organizers on the Freedom Flotilla. He's part of the Mavi Marmara Association, which was created with the families of the people who were assassinated 15 years ago.
We have been attacked. Just a few minutes back, some drones attacked the conscience. We are asking emergency relief to the Maltese authorities.
You got bombed. You got bombed. 14 miles far from Maltese port. I don't know what to say. We got bombed. You see the holes over here? Oh my god. Oh my god. The fire is still going on.
So were you guys scared at this point that people were potentially going to die?
We lost contact with them actually for many hours, and we knew that the ship was bombed and that it was taking on water. We did not know if it was sinking. We did not know actually that what kind of injuries were on board. So we were very concerned. And Tiago can tell you, we organized people who were, training on land to take a couple of boats and try to sail out to them, but they were prevented from reaching them. Twice they tried it, the next day also, and the Maltese authorities prevented them from reaching the ship and our colleagues on board and providing the kind of support that they need. And we knew that, and we were pressuring the Maltese authorities to let them come in, get the people off the ship. And, the requests continue to be inexplicably denied. And the vessel right now is still in the place where it was bombed. And still we are asking the Maltese authorities to let us in. The Ismail and a couple of other people were taken off actually the ship and are now back in Istanbul, but the crew all remains on the ship for now. and where we are looking for a resolution. We are looking to fix the ship right away, again, because we have to continue this mission. At the same time, we're asking for a thorough, independent investigation, not only the one that will confirm that Israel is behind this, but one that will, we hope, will give us some answers into what other authorities, what other countries knew what Israel was planning to do. Because what also has come to light is just hours before Israel bombed our ship, that there was an Israeli military plane in Maltese airspace that flew around and flew right over the area where the ship was bombed before going back to Israel. There are a lot of other factors that indicate that there are other countries that knew, and this is part of what we have been dealing with for years. So we have a situation where not only is the United States obviously fully on board with what Israel is doing and enabling it, but other countries are not only are not living up to their obligations under international law, under just humane law and principles, in not respecting an illegal situation that Israel has created, but they're also hampering civilian efforts to do something about it. It should be, I think people should ask themselves why should civilians try to organize a boat and aid and try to confront the Israeli military to make their way into Gaza, to bring humanitarian aid, to open a Gaza, which is illegally besieged like this, when countries should be doing this. But not only are countries not putting aid on ships and insisting on getting into Gaza, but they are doing Israel's work by trying to sabotage our efforts. So this is one of the times, but in previous, Tiago talked about last year, we were all gathered in Istanbul trying to go, and we were sabotaged again by countries pulling our flag or not allowing us to leave port. And we have been dealing with that for years. So it's really a shameful situation. And one of the things we are trying to do is put pressure on these countries by highlighting their complicity in two ways. One, they have an obligation not to respect the illegal situation that Israel has created. They have an obligation not to render any assistance to a country that is committing genocide. And all of them are on notice that a genocide is taking place in Gaza. But not only are they not doing anything to stop it, but they are rendering assistance in refusing to sanction Israel in any way and in stopping civilian efforts from trying to break this siege and get to the people of Gaza.
I want to ask you, Hueda, because you were there, about the 2010 attack. We actually have some footage of it for people who may not have remembered it or lived through it. So we're going to look at some footage of it and then ask you to react to it.
They'd hoped to deliver aid and draw attention to Israel's 3-year blockade of Gaza, but the attempt ended in tragedy. In the early hours of morning, Israeli armed forces stormed the lead ship in the flotilla that was Gaza-bound. At least 19 people were killed. The vessel was still in international waters, approximately 70 kilometers off the Gaza coast, well away from Israel's zone of maritime control. The Palestinian government called Israel's action an attack against humanity. Saab Erekat, Palestinian chief negotiator, agreed.
We condemn with the strongest possible term the Israeli attack on the flotilla freedom ships that were coming to Gaza in a peaceful manner from Europe, from other countries, Turkey, Arab countries, to deliver some supplies to the besieged people of Gaza.
The military action has left Israel at the forefront of a diplomatic crisis, but the Israeli government remains defiant. Danny Ayalon, the deputy foreign minister, has accused those aboard the ships of provocation and premeditated violence.
I want to report this morning that the armada of hate and violence in support of Hamas terror organization was a premeditated and outrageous provocation. The organizers are well known for their ties to global jihad, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas. They have a history of arms smuggling and deadly terror. On board the ship, we found weapons prepared in advance and used against our forces. The organizers' intent was violent, their method was violent, and the results were unfortunately violent. Israel regrets any loss of life and did everything to avoid this outcome. We repeatedly called upon the organizers and all those who were associated with them through diplomatic channels and any other means we could to stop this provocation.
What do you say to that, Hueda? Why did you guys come with weapons and so many Al Qaeda members?
Right. We're all Al Qaeda, right? You know, everything it continues. It is the same playbook. Nothing that he said was ever proven or that they could prove. And you know, one of the things when they stormed our ships, one of the first things they go after is all of our recording equipment. So they take our cameras, they take our phones, they take our chips. There was a couple of people were able to smuggle out some footage, but they took it all. And then they took all of us hostage and kept us incommunicado for days so they can get out this ridiculous narrative of theirs. Until they dominate all of the airwaves. And that is the story for a while until finally some people are free and able to talk about what they experience. We have on our missions always people from all walks of life. You know, there was a bishop and other religious people. There were parliamentarians on that ship. There were students and medical workers and just, we're all Al Qaeda, we're all Hamas, right? That's of course what they say. And as far as being a provocation, we are a provocation because we are challenging this unlawful policy. Well, you know, most of the world looks up to the history of refusing complicity with unlawful or with unjust laws, right? We look at the leaders of resistance movements in the past. Here in the United States, we glorify, you know, Martin Luther King. We look to Gandhi. We look to and these all use the same kind of methods and tactics we're using, which is direct action to confront injustice. And you know, if that's provocation, then we are being provocative. Yes.
Tiago, as someone who I don't know how old you were in 2010, but I assume you knew about this at least now, even if you learned about it years later. And I know you said that this isn't about you, but were you afraid that something like this could happen, a lethal attack?
You know, Katie, I think everyone that comes in a Freedom Flotilla mission deal with this possibility. And whenever people say that this is a high risk mission, I always agree because of course it is. But it's only a small fraction of the risk that the Palestinian people have to endure every single day in Gaza. And whenever people say that we are brave for doing this, indeed it requires courage to do something like this, but it's just a small fraction of the courage that the Palestinian people need to have all the time. Like Wada said, this type of nonviolent direct action, which we can go through the civil rights movement, the fight against apartheid, the independence of India, many other cases, is something very effective to promote change because we expose so much the cruelty and their violence, and we try to do it as best as we can. So we had people from all walks of life here. We had doctors, we had medical workers, we had members of parliament, we had influencers, Hollywood actors, climate youth movement activists, and people from everywhere, from every single
Greta
continent we have in
Thunberg.
the world. Yes, Greta was here as well, a very brave person as well, wanting to do her best to support the Palestinian cause. And so everyone is confronted with that. Every family of each participant thinks about this scenario the most because it's the worst case scenario for a Freedom Flotilla mission. But in the end, the synthesis that we discuss, because we have collective care sessions as well. When we discuss collectively strategy, and we have sessions to hear the stories of people. And what people will say that on a synthesis of all of it is that the biggest fear that they had is that they would live their lives knowing there was so much exploitation, oppression, and destruction of nature in the world. And the biggest fear was to live their lives without ever being able to challenge it and to change it. So the biggest fear will be to live under submission, under domination, under a planet that is going through destruction right now without being able to do anything. So people were very actually honored to be in one of those missions. So I feel the same. I feel that there's a historical calling for this type of mission. The Freedom Flotilla is not more important than other solidarity missions, and it's a solidarity mission for the Palestinian people that they are leading their resistance, their anti-colonial struggle. But the Freedom Flotilla is connected to every single people disrupting arm factories in the United Kingdom, or going to demonstrations anywhere else, or doing boycott, divestments, promoting divestments and sanctions, or doing grassroots work in their cities, or trying to break the media blockade and promote free information like you do on your show. So everyone is together like a bunch of small little ants promoting a different world. Because what I always try to say to our people here, Katie, that the future of the Palestinian people is most likely the future of all the peoples around the world, because the genocidal experiment that they test on Palestinian bodies, over the Palestinian people, they have an ambition to enlarge it on a worldwide scale. And the attack 1,800 kilometers from them shows how far they are willing to go to promote their hateful and racial supremacist ideology, which is Zionism, and how far is imperialism as well willing to go to promote their realm of violence and destruction. So the biggest fear is not to be able to counter this disaster and not to be able to be useful for the great cause of our generation.